Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and I'm here with an old friend of ours, one of our favourite creators, Zdarsky. How are you, mate?
Doing all right yourself.
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. We were just having a conversation off camera about the delights of Succession. So before we talk about what we're here to talk about with Chip, you haven't seen that show, got to check it out. I can't imagine anybody's not seen it now,
Oh
but it's
yeah. I'm all caught up now. It's like,
yeah,
yeah. Now I'm in the unfortunate position of now I have to wait a week
yeah,
to see
yeah.
what happens.
Yeah, of course, because you have this glorious, almost like a epiphanic moment where you bounce through the whole thing and go, "Oh my God!" Once it exerts its grip, it's like you realise how truly dark
Yeah,
and brilliant it is.
yeah,
But then
yeah.
when you've got to wait a week for every episode, I mean, come on, that's
Ugh,
like living
forget
living
it.
life in the 1970s.
Yep, exactly.
So mate, we're here to talk about your new Marvel series, Devil's Reign. What
Hmm.
can you tell me about it?
What can I tell you? Well, it's my first time doing a Marvel event, and it really came out of the pages of Daredevil, but because our story has been kind of building towards Wilson Fisk kind of getting his happily ever after, but then everything kind of falls apart. And so Devil's Reign basically opens with him. Uh, just his mind is broken. Like he's been in a position of power as the mayor of New York in the Marvel universe for like I want to say 5-6 years or something. It's been a fair amount of time,
Yeah,
but he hasn't been quite villainous with it. He's always just been kind of like the loaded gun that's like in New York City. So here he finally goes off, and it's all about him outlawing the superheroes, but more importantly, kind of releasing his files on them, because much like he did with Matt Murdock and Daredevil, he's amassed a lot of information on friends and enemies, and he's got nothing to lose now, so he just kind of lets it all out there in the open. So yeah, so chaos. It's about chaos, really.
yeah.
Six
Uh,
issues of chaos.
Six Issues of Chaos is a
Yeah.
wonderful way. You're automatically making me super excited to read it just from that one line
Oh,
movie
awesome.
poster description alone.
Yeah.
So, can you get a bit into your relationship with Wilson Fisk and how you see the Kingpin inside your own head?
I mean, it's weird because like when I took over Daredevil, everyone's like, "Oh, you must be really excited to write Matt Murdock." I'm like, "Not really. I'm more interested in Wilson Fisk because there's been so much done with Matt, his kind of rise and fall, rise, fall. He's bounced kind of all over the map emotionally. But Wilson Fisk, I felt like there's a lot of kind of untapped potential there, and kind of over the course of our run, um, we've seen him in like vulnerable positions and questioning what he's doing and why he's doing it, which is something I don't think he's really quite done before. He's always just kind of like sought power, but now it's like, well, to what end? Like,
Yeah.
why would I want this? So that's been a lot of fun to write. There've been a few issues of Daredevil that I'm like, that feel like my favorite things that I've ever done, and they're very much because of Wilson Fisk.
Yeah.
So he's a fascinating character because he doesn't have superpowers or anything, unless John Romita Senior's drawing him, beating the hell out
Yeah,
of
right.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah, right. Or he's in Into the Spider Verse where he appears to be the
A
equivalent of
box.
a human wool. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So he's a lot of fun to write because it's funny when the event was announced. You kind of I try not to, but you still pick up a bit of chatter of people talking about a thing, and people are like, well, Wilson Fisk, like he can't beat any of these guys
yeah.
physically. Like, what's he gonna do? And I'm just like, oh, they don't understand Wilson Fisk. Like,
It's all
like
about that. Yeah.
he can destroy you. He can destroy you from so many different angles, and that's been a lot of fun to play.
It's so refreshing, brilliant actually to hear you say that because one of the things as a fan, as a reader, that I've truly enjoyed about your run is exactly the fact that your Fisk has been kind of so complexly delivered and not a cipher, because he's one of those characters that very much people think he's very well drawn, and
Yeah,
as you say, he isn't.
yeah.
He actually isn't. He's really like he's the big bad that nobody's really thought very much about. It seems to me, and you very much like reversed that trend with your run.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely took advantage of my position, having kind of Wilson Fisk to myself. And, we share him with Spider-Man,
Yeah,
the Spider Office, but for the most part, being able to really dig into a character and being like, oh, like this is his story going forward. It doesn't matter what else is happening in the Marvel universe. This is like, this is the defining, hopefully, vision for the character. Is responsibility, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, oh man, you totally delivered on it.
Cool.
When you were first asked to take over Daredevil, it would seem to me from the outside, again as a fan of the character and as a fan of a lot of people who've created Daredevil comics, that one of the issues with coming on board Daredevil as a creator, and why I think you've got to have like balls of steel to do it in a way, is you're coming off a run where for years and years the best people in the industry have worked on the character and also delivered kind of career best runs. So you've got a brilliant run from Bendis, a brilliant run from Brubaker, a
Yep.
great run from Wade, really unusual run from Wade. So
Yeah.
I would have thought that when I heard originally you that's what you're signing on, I was like, man, because I love your work, but I was thinking is there anything else to say? But actually, you've told those stories and you've done something that I didn't see coming. So that
Thanks.
outcome is fantastic, and I genuinely mean that, mate. I think it's great comics. But
Awesome.
did you think, fuck, this is a bit much, this is a bit of a tall order before you came onto it?
Well, I mean, it's funny when you say, it's about creators coming in, like nothing but the best creators coming into the book, but in half of those instances, those creators weren't known for much.
Yeah.
Like Frank Miller wasn't really known for a lot before coming into Daredevil, and the Senti
Yeah.
took over wasn't really known for much.
Yeah.
Bendis, it was like his first Marvel gig. Like even Brubaker, like I forget what he did for Marvel before that, but it wasn't Captain America because that came later.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
No,
an
you're
interesting
absolutely
mix.
right. I guess of those guys, Wade is the only one who was like massively established beforehand.
Yeah. Charles was established, Wade, but yeah, I mean, it's a special title, and I asked for it. Like, one of the first things that CB Cebulski did when he came on board as editor-in-chief, he talked to all the contract writers, and he was like, "Pie in the sky, what are your top books that you would want to work on here?" Just so he knew in the back of his head where people's interests lied. And I gave him 2 titles. I won't tell you the second one, but the first one was Daredevil. I was like, I want Daredevil. And I think most writers probably say they want Daredevil for a lot of reasons. I mean, the big one is there's a freedom on that character because the runs have been so great and have done such wild things and kind of mature takes or fun takes. Like, Marvel knows well enough to leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like they don't have to like kind of ramp it up or make it like an A-list book because they kind of they know people will shine on that title given the opportunity and with a kind of a lack of interference because the character doesn't touch anything else. Like he's not an X-Men, he's not an Avenger, right?
Yeah.
He's not cosmic. He's street level, but like I don't know, there's not a lot of street level kind of crossover stuff really that you have to be aware of. So yeah, he's an oasis, and you can kind of tell darker stories, lighter stories, whatever your interest lies, you can do it with that character, which is a lot of fun. And there was pressure. I don't really kind of succumb to pressure because I always am able to take a step back and go, I'm writing a comic book. I'm writing a comic book about Daredevil. That's fun. Whatever. People like it. Great. If they don't, whatever. But the only moment where I was just like, felt even the tiniest bit of butterflies was pitching the book and our first year of it in the room at a Marvel Summit where you're there with like all the writers and the editors. I remember pitching in a room with Wade, Charles Soule, Joe Quesada, and I'm like, here I am telling them what I'm going to do with Daredevil. And they're going to have questions, and they did. And like, it was a really good back and forth in that room where we were all kind of like arguing different sides of the story. And yeah, so that was surreal, a little nerve-wracking, but mostly just surreal.
It really must have been, but I can see that you clearly felt supported by those guys. That must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there were a few things that I remember there was like pushback on from Marvel at the time. Daredevil was still going at Netflix,
Yeah.
So there was a bit more pressure because there were eyes from above. Like I had to kind of pass the synopsis up the chain, maybe more so than I would if I was doing Howard the Duck, right?
Yeah. Right.
um, but as soon as the show was canceled, that kind of stopped a little bit or halted, which was good. Then it just became mostly just support from everyone. I had to prove a couple things on the page for sure. Like I remember the big one was in issue 5, we had Spider-Man come in and basically threaten Daredevil. And it's a heavy, dark scene, and it's a version of Spider-Man I haven't really written before. That kind of only works in Daredevil. And I remember in the room pitching it, like there were a lot of editors who were just like, no, you can't do that. Like you have to figure some other way out. I'm like, no, trust me, like let me write it and I can show you it can be done. And thankfully, like when I finally wrote it and Marco did the drawings, it was like they were like, okay, all right, we get it. That's fine. You're good to go. Yeah. It's always good to kind of punt it
Of
downfield a
course.
little bit, right? Because it's just
Yeah.
like,
Right on.
oh, well, we'll figure it out later. And
Yeah.
then the time comes, and maybe they're just like hands in the air, like we got to send this to the printer, like forget it.
Got to
But
get it done.
yeah, they've been super supportive, which kind of like built up and led to Devil's Reign because I kept, whenever I'd update the room on the story, it just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger. And at some point, like CB was like, well, this is the thing. Like we should make this like kind of a mini event. Like it was going to be like a street level thing. And then the more I kind of was writing it and the bigger it got, I think the editors of Marvel were just like, oh, okay, this is bigger. This is now like a proper Marvel event. Like, so it kind of grew in the telling, which is nice because, yeah, I mean, there are Marvel events that are just kind of like mandated, and there are Marvel events that kind of like naturally come out of the
Organic.
story being told. And thankfully this is that. Because my favorite Marvel event, I mean, there's a lot, but like World War Hulk, I don't think people realize like the Hulk wasn't like a top seller before Greg
No.
Pak came on and then like, you know, sent him to space and built this like amazing story, and the Illuminati were involved, um and to have that be like the culmination of that story, this massive event, a Hulk event, which nobody thought would ever be a thing. I find that incredibly cool, and like that's kind of like my high water mark for a natural progression of a story into an event.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I mean, I'm clearly a Marvel fan of a certain age, and I've been reading Marvel comics since the early '60s, since I was a
Yeah,
little kid, and so as a fan of a certain age, actually, event books are not necessarily my favorite thing.
yeah,
Because I like to dig into the mythology of one character with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and
yeah. I get that.
sometimes that overwhelming cosmicity, which might be a word that I've just made up, but
Hey, I get
talking
it.
about but that is what's great about Daredevil, that you don't get, none of that impinges on you. If the shit going down with Ego, the Living Planet, Daredevil's not your man, right?
Yeah,
So I get that, but I think your point about the organic event books, yeah, and you can feel it on the page when they come that way.
yeah.
That's why I'm very excited about this.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, and it's also nice to be able to bring Marco, our Daredevil artist, onto this,
Yeah,
because he's kind of built for an event book. Like every
yeah,
character he draws is like, oh, that's the coolest version of that character ever. Like Doc Ock is in our book, and like I'm just amazed at how he has made this, let's face it, dorky character just look absolutely menacing
yeah.
and cool as hell. I'm just like, wow, people are just gonna love this.
Chip, mate,
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see that. And can
Cool.
you name drop any other guest stars for me who you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, it's most of the New York crew. I mean, we've got some Avengers. We got like Cap and Iron Man, She-Hulk, but we've got street level. So Luke and Jessica play a big part in it. Danny Rand as well pops up. The Champions pop up. A brief cameo by X-Men because we've actually got like kind of an X-Men story happening in their mini series. They're doing like a Dark or a Devil's Reign mini series. Yeah, those are kind of like those are the big names. And we've got a bunch of villains that are kind of being revealed as the story goes on, as like Thunderbolt agents, and yeah, Doc Ock is one of them. he kind of goes head to head with the Fantastic Four, which is a lot of fun. Like Otto Octavius and Reed Richards, like that's kind of like a fun kind of pairing
Brilliant.
to play with, yeah. So it's like Marvel's been good to kind of hand me, as they say, the toys.
Yeah.
And I get to kind of mess with them. But
I really cannot wait, mate.
cool.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of tremendously excited Daredevil fans listening to this. So, we have been talking with Chip about Devil's Reign, which you can pre-order from the links attached to this conversation.
What?
I know, right? It's almost like we thought it through beforehand. The links are right here, and you are going to love this book, and I can't wait to read the whole thing, mate. Really looking forward to it.
Cool, thanks, man.
Take care, brother. I'll see you soon.
All right, see ya.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.